Hello and welcome back to the feature match area. We are getting ready to watch round 5, Patrick Chapin versus Devin Taets.
All right, looks like a pretty classic modern matchup here, Gabby.
What is that, Marshall?
We've got Eldrazi versus Affinity.
All right, that's pretty classic.
Yeah, so, this is only classic as of a couple of weeks ago. But it has, these two decks were the certain headliners coming out of the Pro Tours just 2 short weeks ago. And, I think that as far as metagame planning, you have to have a decent game plan against these two decks when you showed up here. If you didn't, you're probably asking for it. And interestingly, we're going to see them fight against each other here. Chapin is the one who's playing the Eldrazi deck, and Devin, as you can see here quite plainly.
Yeah, quite plainly is correct.
Is playing Affinity.
So it looks like Devin was actually able to do pretty well here.
Yeah, he's got a Steel Overseer right off the bat here, and that is going to be a major threat for Chapin, especially if Devin can find one more creature to start piling counters on next turn. Doesn't really matter what it is, but usually if they activate a Steel Overseer twice, it's usually lights out at that point.
Yeah, and it's a little blurred out right now. The card at the bottom is actually a Blinkmoth Nexus, so
there
having that Steel Overseer out there also can get some counters on there, start beating down a little bit. So
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, for Chapin's side of the board, he's going to use a Dismember here to take down the Overseer.
Yeah, that seems very needed. It seems like Steel Overseer is very quick to run away with any game, so Patrick takes a lot of life for that, but
he did.
Now he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Looks like Endless One is a play for Patrick Chapin. 2 mana 2/2 at this point.
Not super amazing.
Looks like a Master of Ethereum is a draw for him. Might actually not be.
Yeah, it's a Master.
It is? All right. Yeah, so
I wouldn't be surprised to just see him run that out here. He's also got a Ravager in his hand, another Springleaf Drum.
So down comes the Ravager.
Interesting.
Yeah, and without the Steel Overseer, Devin's hand looking significantly worse at this point. But I think that's a oh no, it's a Springleaf Drum.
Yeah.
I thought he had a cranial plating though.
He might have one in hand.
Yeah.
If his hand is Master and plating, he's in pretty good shape.
Oh yeah. So Eldrazi Mimic is a draw for Patrick.
This one's slipping away from Chapin pretty quickly though.
I mean, he opened a hand where he doesn't have any of the quote-unquote Ancient Tomb style lands for the Eldrazi, and that's so difficult for it to overcome.
Right. That's what sets this deck apart. If you don't have those lands, the deck plays a fair game here, and maybe even below fair, right? Like you see this Endless One as a 2/2 for 2.
Oh,
like that that does not get the job done in Modern. It looks like he's going to fire off a Displacer here. No, he's going to go for a Mimic.
Very nice. So the Eldrazi Mimic for Patrick Chapin, but yeah, not doing that much in terms of life total, not having a very big board presence at this point. There is a Displacer in his hand, which could at some point in this game maybe start blinking a creature that has, the plating on it.
It has the plating. Also, it's interesting because, the Displacer can mess around with what's going on with the Arcbound Ravager.
Yeah.
Also, he can force the issue by blinking the Ravager. He can, if Devin decides to kind of move in and put all the counters on one creature, Patrick has the opportunity to interact with that. So could be interesting, but Patrick actually chose not to play the Displacer here, instead just play the Mimic.
Yeah, so here we go. Cranial plating on top of the Signal Pest.
That was a plating that you saw earlier, Gabby.
Yeah. This is really nice, too, because the Signal Pest has faux evasion at this point. Yeah, so they're counting up the number of artifacts. It's 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good amount at this point.
Yes. Yeah, Devin could have made it 7 here. He still can if he wants to activate his Blinkmoth. But Patrick Chapin, now we see why he didn't play the Displacer. He wanted to leave up path.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this actually saves him not just a ton of life, but is able to take care of, a problematic creature that he couldn't block before. So Patrick is definitely clawing his way back into this game.
Yeah, now the Blinkmoth Nexus becomes the most problematic card.
Yes, it does. All right, so it looks like Sky Sponder's a draw for Patrick. He's still unable to find any temples or Eye of Ugin, so he's locked into having to play one spell a turn. Whereas if he were able to find one of those lands, maybe he'd start. There's like an Endless One, a Sky Spawner, a Displacer, he'd be able to start dumping his hand.
Yeah, Drowner of Hope looks a little far away right now with no blue mana. Or is that in a Dark Our Waste in the middle? Yeah, I guess he does have blue mana, but he still needs 3 more mana to be able to cast it.
Yeah, so Eldrazi Mimic becomes a 3/3, and in come both Endless One and Eldrazi Mimic.
Yeah, crunching in there for 5 here, so looking to knock Devin down to 13. And he still has that Sky Spawner in his hand. And I got to say that Sky Spawner does good work against this deck, too. Any flyers that you can put up basically trade off for anything that Devin's doing outside of an all-in for a Ravager. And basically Chapin is going to try to set up to prevent that here, especially if he can draw one of his, you call it an Ancient Tomb land, something like that next turn, that he can be in really good shape next turn.
So something I'm a little surprised about is that Signal Pest did die earlier when it could have been eaten by Ravager, make it into a 2/2. The one thing that that Devin can consider there is he might just want the land.
Yeah, he decided to go get the land instead.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's a strategic decision. We'll see if it punishes him or not.
So the Master of Ethereum, pretty big. Let's see, it's 1, 2, 3,
it's
4,
a 6. Yeah,
6.
so he wanted to put a die on it, but Chapin asked him not to because, like, you can see the die represent +1/+1 counters, and that's not what happens with the Master of Ethereum. So Chapin said, well, if you could not, put a die on it, it would make it a little more clear of a board state.
Yeah.
And so they decided to compromise and put the die above it. Was that Galvanic Blast?
It was Galvanic Blast to take care of that Displacer.
All right. That's a solid play there from Devin.
So let's see.
He's trying to set up for next turn.
Patrick Chapin draws another Drowner of Hope, still pretty far away.
That is not good. Well, Sky Spawner this turn's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's not facing, with the Master of Ethereum, he's facing a lot more pressure, but, his life total is still doing pretty well, considering how far into this game we are at this point. Also, the nice thing about that Sky Spawner is it is going to let him get a Scion, which is essentially a land at this point, and with 2 Drowners in hand, if he's just able to draw, Eldrazi Temple or Eye of Ugin next turn, he would be able to play that Eldrazi, the Drowner of Hope.
Yeah, that would be amazing for him, too. I mean, that would set him up for defense in the long term and even given a potential attacker. Oh, man, another great draw here from Devin.
Yeah, so that's excellent. It also puts the Master at 7 at this point. So tapping that Seal Overseer to the Springleaf Drum. I think we're...
I think Chapin might have wanted a clarification on what was happening. I mean, one thing to remember here is that Chapin does have a mana available. And
yeah, that's true.
He could be posturing representing another Dismember here. Maybe trying to put some doubt into Devin's mind or something like that.
So the Cranial Plating is going to be equipped on the Master of Ethereum. This Master of Ethereum is crunching in for a lot.
I think it's lethal, right? Like it's got 14 or 15 power, so it's going to force Chapin to chump block here.
So a chump block here for Chapin.
Wow.
Preserving a big chunk of his life total, but he is going to lose that Endless One. All right, so we see a chump from that Eldrazi, that Endless One, rather.
This is a big draw step for Chapin. Oh, he found a land, but not the one he wanted.
Yeah. It's the land he needed, but not the one he deserved. Or not the one he needed, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I know what phrase you're using. Yeah, I think he feels like he probably deserved an Eye of Ugin.
Yeah. It's tough. I've been asking players how often they keep hands that don't have an Eldrazi Temple or an Eye of Ugin, and the answer is not often.
Not often.
Yeah. Like very, very rarely. If you have, in the case of Patrick for this hand, he had a lot of early interaction, like lower drops and stuff, but this deck just wants to get out fast, and not having Eye or anything like that, it doesn't let you.
It is getting interesting here, though, because he has chump blockers here. Like this board is starting to get away from him, but it is amazing what a Drowner of Hope can do to help get you in for a bunch of damage. Like looking at the board here, Devin's at 13. If Patrick were to play a Drowner of Hope, he would get 2 1/1 scions, his Mimic would become a 5/5, right? And he could already get in for 7 just right away, right? I mean, that's a big hit. That's over half of Devin's life total. If he could just do it again the next turn, he could probably just set up lethal pretty easily.
He's going to be able to play that endless one right here. So even though he lost the previous one to chumping, he is developing his board a little bit here.
Assuming he gets in here then?
He just has to make sure there is a Blink Moth Nexus, and that's something to be a little bit concerned about.
He only has the 1 chump blocker for it. But the great part for Chapin is that the Blink Moth is not lethal, even with the plating on it. It's not going to be as big as that Master. He'd take 8 or something like that, 7 or 8, depending on what he draws. But he can take that hit.
Right.
It's not easy for Devin to kill him from that life total without connecting again with some creature.
Also, if he wants to, he can leave that Sky Spawner behind. Sky Spawner can just block.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think what he's deciding is if he wants to get in with the Sky Spawner or not. I think that the Mimic's getting in either way.
Yeah, so the Mimic is a 4/4 for this turn.
Well, I think the question is, maybe Devin's asking, well, I wasn't sure if you actually turned it into a 4/4 or not. So I think that they're going to get that cleared up to make sure about, what it actually is or what it isn't before Patrick attacks, which is, they should get that sorted out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very relevant, especially to the life totals that are going on right here. In one scenario, that Ravager could potentially block and kill it, and another one would just be a chump. Not that Devin's life total is under that much pressure here anyway.
All right, so looks like this will take a minute to get sorted and make sure what's what. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be a 4/4, and he's going to jump. He's going to ram in there with both. It is kind of curious here for Devin. I mean, Patrick doesn't mind if. Looks like maybe we're.
Looks like they're about ready to rumble, but not quite.
Yeah. So what I think actually was happening is that they're kind of reenacting.
What was happening in the matchup until this point?
But it is interesting. So let's just assume that the Mimic gets to become a 4/4, and then Patrick decides to attack with both. Devin can block with Ravager and eat the Mimic if he wants to sack enough permanence to it. The problem is that makes his plating and his Master worse, so he's incentivized not to do that.
Yeah.
He would probably just end up taking the full 6 damage here, but that's a big deal.
Right.
Because leaving him at 7 means that if Chapin top decks a land and the shields are down enough for Devin, then he can kill him on the spot. Like he can just go like Drowner, get in with my Mimic that's a 5/5, my flyer, and you're dead.
Not to forget that Devin also has burn spells in his deck. Legitimate burn spells.
He does. He's used one already, and he's out of cards, so the most he could draw is 4 damage off the top. Outside of something like Thoughtcast into 2 burn spells. But I don't live in Christmas land that often. I visit it occasionally.
Christmas Land is very nice. I think the players have resolved what was going on here. That Mimic is presumably a 4/4. He is getting in for 6 right here, putting Devin down to 7.
This is huge because Devin currently does not have a way to kill Chapin immediately. And if Chapin draws a land, he can win effectively on the spot. We'll see what Devin ends up leaving behind.
Yeah, so Devin chose to animate that Blink Moth Nexus and is now activating that Steel Overseer, giving counter to every single one of his artifacts.
This is big.
Those artifact creatures getting quite large.
Looks like he's going to move the plating over to the Blink Moth here.
Diversifying his threats, I like it.
Yeah, it's just not lethal. That's the problem. The Master is going to get chump blocked by the Endless one, which seems weird because you'd think that the Scion would be a better thing to chump block with, but Chapin needs it to keep his win alive for next turn with any land off the top.
Yeah, so it looks like Devin needs to do a little bit of math here. That's a tricky thing about Affinity, and this is what Affinity pilots do really well. You have to balance this, you have all these artifacts and you want your Master to be bigger and you want your plating to count for more, but at the same time you need to be careful because if you go all in on Ravager, you kind of lose that aspect of the rest of the team. So
totally.
It's interesting to decide when to go for it and when to hold back. And
that spawner sitting there is really annoying. He says, can I go to blocks?
So it looks like that endless one is getting ready to.
It's going to block.
Yep.
Now the big question is the Ravager here. The problem is, it works against the plating,
Yes.
right? Like you sack the creatures, the plating gets smaller, but you get the counters that stay on it. I don't think that Devin can do lethal here, though.
So that Master of Ethereum is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's a 9.
Yeah, it's huge.
Which means, of course, the plating's also giving a bump of 9. So that would have Devin getting in for 11 and dropping Chapin down. And this is actually super critical, too, because if Chapin goes to 1 and draws a fetch land, then that's no longer an out for him. But if he goes to 2, then his lands are out.
Right.
So it's about as tight as they get here, Gabby. This is a very close game here.
Match of the ages since last week.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Let's see. So it looks like Ravager is going to start eating some things.
Well, now because the Ravager actually has 2 counters on it already, so that bumps the artifact count down by 1. But we'll put
it does add
multiple counters on.
Yeah, it puts 2 counters on whatever goes on.
Which would put Chapin down to 1, I believe. It would be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? There's a lot of chatter here between the players about what exactly is happening.
Well, it's important to remember
here.
that Master of Ethereum is also pumping that Blink Moth Nexus, so
right,
because he's an artifact lord.
Okay, so that should be lethal then.
I think it's lethal
too. Then he has
because
lethal
he was
if
at
that's
1.
the case. Yeah, no, you're totally right, and that would be lethal. Looks like the players are not 100% clear on this either. There's a lot going on with this Blink Moth.
Oh yeah, I mean there's always
he does
so
have to
much
put the
going
Ravager on it though, right?
He does. He needs to move it over, but if he does, yes. So that Blink Moth's a 2/2 naturally, pumped by the Masters a 3, and then the plating is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, 9, which isn't enough. That's 12.
Right.
But
and
then
he
if
moves,
he puts the Ravager counters on, it goes down to 11, but then up to 13. But he does need to do that. This is super interesting.
This is what's difficult about playing this deck. Here we go. So if this goes according to plan, Devin should be able to win this game.
Yes.
Oh, is he not blocking? Is he choosing not to block the Steel Overseer? Because if he doesn't block the Steel Overseer, he doesn't even have to do anything. It's another 2 points. 3 points, actually.
It looks like he hasn't. Yeah, because I think if Chapin blocks the Steel Overseer, then Devin can just kill him. And Chapin, I think, is just looking at him, kind of daring him to do something here. But Devin will win.
Well, it's scary because if you're Devin, you really have to be aware of Dismember here.
Yeah, the thing is that's so much damage, and he's getting in for lethal in the air in that case.
Well, this is one of those situations where, like, yes, you have to be careful about Dismember, but also he's kind of in a position where he needs to do something like this. It looks like they're untapping everything. Oh, they're replaying what's going on in this turn. Okay, so Devin's animating that Blink Moth, putting counters on everything.
He had to move the plating over.
Right. So then 1 more mana, he moves the plating over because it used to be on the Master of Ethereum. Now it's back on the Blink Moth.
Right. So
attack with everybody.
Yeah, but so that means that since the Overseer got activated this turn, it's not actually attacking.
Oh, that's right. Because it was on tap before. You're right.
Right. Yeah. Easy game, right?
This is what you run into when you play Affinity.
Yeah.
No joke, though.
No, and it is incredibly punishing as well for any oversights whatsoever. And in fact, on both players' part.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that they're at a point where they can definitely backtrack and make sure that everything's according to game state, which I think at this point we believe it is.
Okay.
So that Overseer is not attacking. Endless One blocking the Master of Ethereum. Now, Devin still has the same line available that we discussed before.
Yes, and it looks like
moving it
he's going
over.
to go for it.
Yep.
Did it.
Let's see it. Patrick Chapin, do you have anything?
Lethal. And Chapin still double checking the math here, but does look like it adds up when you add up the +1/+1 counters plus the ability from the Master. And we have a game.
There you go. Wow. Complicated board state. Very well piloted by Devin at the end. I mean, with the exception of the Steel Overseer thing. But that was a very complicated board state, but there was definitely a win right there. And he needed to make sure that Patrick didn't have Dismember. He didn't And that's match. Or sorry, game rather. Wow.
Oof. That was about as close as they get.
Now we're going to move over and take a look at what Ben Friedman and Hao-shan are currently up against. Looks like Ben is on Malira Company, and Hao is playing Blue-White Eldrazi. We are used to seeing, we expect to see some of this matchup the rest of this game as well. They're both sitting at 4-0.
The rest of this day.
Yes.
These are definitely two of the more popular decks in the field here in Detroit. We are going to get an update, by the way. I'm kind of jealous, Gabby, but you get to hang out with BDM a little bit later after this round, and he's going to let you know what happened in Melbourne.
Very cool.
Yeah. As far as decks, like undefeated decks and that kind of stuff, to see what was doing well. Is it going to be the big bad Eldrazi, or did something come up and knock it off?
Probably the big bad Eldrazi. But there's something cool that just happened here in this game. There's a copy of Big Game Hunter that comes down for Ben. A nice addition to fight the Eldrazi menace. Has a very cool interaction if you ever target it to try to take down a Reality Smasher. You can just, like, with madness, kill another one of the Eldrazi. It's pretty sweet.
Did it actually kill anything?
It did not kill anything in this game. That said,
saddest big game hunter ever.
Yeah, he did not. The game was not hunted.
he's not on the hunt. All right.
No, not really. He's just a 1/1.
I mean, did Ben came into this game a little late here, but it looks like he just cast it.
Oh, he did. He
like
hard
he just
cast
said
it.
like Wall of Roots, tap, play a 1/1.
It's possible that Hao just hasn't been playing anything that seemed like needed killing because now this Thought Knot Seer comes down. But if he's missed a couple turns where he just played Eldrazi Sky Spawner, maybe in that situation.
But still, you would never just play a 1/1 out, right?
Yeah.
It's madness.
It is. So it looks like he has mostly lands in his hand. I think there's a copy of Orzhov Pontiff in there.
Yeah, he's got a Cord as well.
Oh, he does?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he had one of them taken away by the Thought Knot Seer, but he's got a backup. Very deliberately counting how much he can cord for.
So
Hao knows about it anyway, so
yeah,
it's 8.
I was going to say, if you're Hao, you know exactly what's coming, but, you know, Ben would be a little bit more careful, I'm sure, without counting
tapping.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
8.
8.
Yeah, he has 8 mana available, so he can cord for up to 5, which I can grab his deck list here, but usually they don't have anything that costs more than that anyway. Wow, yeah, he has a lot of stuff here. He's got a worship.
All right, so
just
worship.
In his sideboard, kind of interesting.
And the interesting thing about worship here is just trying to figure out whether or not your opponent's bringing a way to deal with worship. Because worship obviously very good against blue-white Eldrazi, but if they bring in disenchant, it doesn't really do very much. All right, so Court of Calling. Let's see.
After the Pontiff.
Yeah, after the Pontiff. It looks like another big game hunter. This takes down the Thought Knot Seer and gets to draw him another card.
Boom.
Yeah, that's very nice. Getting some redemption for the
big game. It gets hunted. So that is not good news for Hao-shan. As drawn cards, and he also used his Orzhov Pontiff to give everything -1.
And so down go the Eldrazi Sky Spawner and the Scion.
I hope you enjoyed having a board state, Hao, because no longer.
So Ben Friedman fully in control of this board at this point. Hao-shan doesn't have any creatures. He finds a gemstone caverns. Yeah. Drowner of Hope.
Whoa, that's not bad.
That's not bad. That said, there's a lot going on the other side of the battlefield at this point. The fact that you get 3 bodies is excellent. And they block everything that's going on over here pretty well. He doesn't have all the pieces of the combo yet. He has Visitor's Seer, but not some of the other.
That's the only piece he has right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really wants to see something like a Collected Company. You know, one of his big cards to come off the top. Another card he wouldn't mind seeing is another Court of Calling or an Eternal Witness for Court of Calling. Something just to get his big punch cards coming through and try to set up the combo.
The interesting thing there, too, Ben could have chosen to go for parts of his combo there with a Court of Calling, but obviously taking care of that Thought Knot Seer, which is going to be down pretty fast, and being able to draw a card is excellent. However, he's just drawing into lands at this point. So we're going to take a look at what's going on in our main match now. we're back to Patrick Chapin versus Devin Taets.
Well, nothing from Chapin here on turn 1 or 2. He's got an Eldrazi Temple.
He had a gut shot. So gut shot, a great addition in the sideboard to fight against Affinity. He's able to take care of most of the creatures that it's playing.
Yeah, interesting as well. Devin may take this cue, but if I was in Devin's seat, he's got an Inkmoth Nexus down there, which is certainly something that Chapin has to be aware of. I would assume that Chapin either has another removal spell or at least like an Eldrazi Sky Spawner or something to get in the way of that. Because as the game goes longer, that Inkmoth Nexus can be a real issue for Chapin.
Yeah.
Where, you know, the Signal Pest is also a problem, but as an individual threat, it's basically meaningless. It doesn't do anything. And Chapin decided not to save his gut shot and to just snap off that. So that's interesting.
So it looks like Chapin has 3 copies of gut shot in his sideboard. So, you know, even if he went through 1 right now, like, it's very possible he draws into a couple more, and he just brings a lot of ways to deal with. Eldrazi, you know, he equals recall on his sideboard as well. Disenchant is something you could be bringing in. Gut shots are able to take care of a lot of the Eldrazi cards. So he does have a lot of things in his sideboard. Yeah, he's ready. He definitely came ready.
And we figured out what the card was, by the way. It was a Path to Exile, and then he drew another one as well. So Chapin looking to be in good spot here.
Yeah, so Spellskite for Devin. Spellskite being able to redirect most of the things that we just talked about right now, with the exception of Hurkyl's Recall. There's a Hurkyl's Recall by Patrick.
Chapin just needs to find a threat here.
I think he's found one.
Ding.
It's a Drowner of Hope.
There it is. Yeah, this could work out very well for Chapin here. This is exactly how he wanted it to play out. Devin is doing almost nothing. He's got a bunch of cards in his hand just stuck.
Well, the Affinity deck just can't, you know, it needs only a couple lands to operate, but so many of the lands, or so many of the cards that Devin has right now in hand, cost 2 mana. He doesn't have that many lands to deploy them. Not even cheap creatures.
He's got 3 mana available.
Well, up until like at this point of the game, but earlier he just didn't, you know, that Springleaf drop is so good. He has like a 0 mana creature, but he doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
That Dismember is going to take care of the Drowner, but there's still those 2 Scions can actually do a little bit of work.
Yeah, what's the follow-up play here for Devin? Because this is a really important turn. He needs to add something meaningful to the board here. Yeah, so that counts.
Yep. Steel Overseer qualifies.
Yeah, and now Patrick's going to have to spend probably the next 2 turns using his Path to Exiles to eventually get that Overseer. But the Spellskite is going to buy Chapin 1 turn here. That's pretty important because it means that what Devin gets to do is he gets to redirect his Spellskite from the first Path to Exile, and then any creatures he can play out of his hand, he can then steal Overseer up. And again, you know, once you start getting into that second activation of Overseer, the game slips away from your opponent pretty quickly.
So this is going to be a nice turn for Patrick here. He gets the Path to Exile that Steal Overseer.
Whoa! He let him do it.
Yep.
I'm really surprised.
I'm actually surprised about that as well.
Yeah, the Spellskite is kind of there for that reason. I mean, like, I think Chapin assumed that it was going to get redirected and that Devin would just have to pay the 2 life to do so.
Yeah, I wonder if Devin values his life total at this point. I don't like that, though, because Spellskite's only here for chumping at this point. Whereas Steel Overseer, you know, like, there you go. An Ornithopter right here. You know, there's an Inkmoth down there. Being able to pump your team with Steel Overseer is really important. Master of Ethereum right here.
Look at this team. Look at this turn.
Yeah.
Like, if that was a Steel Overseer instead of a Spellskite, this is what I was setting up before. Devin would be able to activate that and get 2 counters on these, or get a counter on each of these creatures, and still force Chapin to use, you know, his removal spell. Also, that's his only basic, Devin's. You notice he didn't search.
Yeah.
Like, that was just straight up the best removal spell in the history of all things ever.
Yes, it was. I think it might have been a little bit of a misstep here by Devin. Hurkyl's Recall is going to take care of all of those cards.
Boom.
Wow, crashing in for 5/6. Wow.
Yeah, 5 damage. Ouch. Yeah, Chapin with the removal spells plus the well-timed sideboard card there. Looks like he's going to be in good shape here.
I mean, we saw it in his deck list. Patrick definitely came ready to fight against the Eldrazi. He's well aware that this is one of the matchups that he can struggle with, so he came with at least like 6 sideboard slots for it.
This is interesting too, is that, and you will see this pretty often, Devin is going to be able to dump a good portion of his hand onto the table here, and you'll often find that the Hurkyl's Recall buys you about Well, it gets you the full turn, right, where you're not going to get attacked again in most scenarios. But it doesn't get you much more than that. Now, in a deck like Chapin's, that's all he needs.
Yeah.
Get your stuff out of the way, hit you once, and now you're the one who's on the back foot, and Chapin can just keep crunching with a bunch of creatures.
Yeah, Hercule's Recall definitely ranges from being just like a fog sometimes, whereas it can also just be the card that just wins you the game like flat out.
Totally.
So here comes Patrick Chapin once again, pathing that Spellskite. Out goes the Spellskite, still no land to find. Untapped by Patrick Chapin.
Yeah, he's going to knock him down to 4 life here.
Yeah, not quite lethal yet, but it's a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, I will say that Chapin, he does have a little more work to do here. He's not quite done yet because Devin is going to get free reign on the next turn and may be able to stabilize the board back in his favor if Chapin doesn't have a backup threat here. He's not at the point of activating Eye of Ugin yet, unless he wants to start sacking Scions to do it. And, hey, he might want to. If they look like they're not going to get in there, he might just do that. He'd need to sack 2 of them, so...
So Galvanic Blast is going to take care of the Sky Spawner. It shortens his clock, but not by much. Also, Patrick is very close to using Eye of Ugin at this point.
He's getting there.
That doesn't typically happen against the Affinity players, but he's getting there.
I mean, he's pretty far from just like using land. I mean, he's still got at least 2 turns to go.
Yeah.
But if he wants to sack Scions, he can do that on end step. Go search up something, a Drowner of Hope or whatever, and then if he feels like that would put him over the top, he may just do that. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at all, to be honest.
I mean, he's under no pressure right now from Devin.
None.
Okay, Steel Overseer.
Plating.
And he doesn't even get to do anything right here.
Nope.
He is sacking 2 Scions and activating that Eye of Ugin right here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see that. He knows that he wants to try to close this game out now and that the Scions aren't going to do a ton more for him. Yeah, and
Reality Smasher
he's
is
getting the
pretty good.
closers.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just getting he's just like, all right.
Well, the other assumption you can do here if
This
you're
is
Patrick
a lethal
is...
attack?
Yeah. The other assumption you can do here as Patrick is...
He's forcing a chump.
Devin has a lot of cards in hand. How often does the Affinity deck have a lot of cards in hand? They're all 2-mana spells.
Yeah.
Or very reactive spells. So he just wants to close the window out now.
Bad draw there for Chapin, but it doesn't matter because, look, the Steel Overseer's dying here.
Yeah.
In combat.
Yeah, and then if you're Devin, you just have nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 cards in hand. I think he's got maybe like a Master of Ethereum and another Plating. So, he's got a little bit of action. The problem is he's just too far behind at this point. Must block.
Yeah. Goodbye, Silverseer. In comes in the Reality Smasher. Yeah, this is window right here.
Now, how big? The question here is how big is this Master of Ethereum going to be? It's going to be 4 at least, unless.
It depends if he has
any. Do you know
any
what that card on the bottom is to land?
I think it's a Glimmer Void and an Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah, okay, so it'll be 4/4 unless he has a free artifact or can cast something else.
Which he does, and look at his hand. It's all expensive. It's another Ravager. It's another Cranial Plating.
Okay, but this actually sets him up because the Ornithopter plus the Master...
And animating the Inkmoth.
He can animate the Inkmoth as well. He doesn't even need to, but he can. And those actually take care of the Reality Smasher. I mean, sure, he loses his Master in the process, but he doesn't die.
Yeah, so in comes Patrick with the Reality Smasher.
Yeah, so double block. And he's still left with an Ornithopter, a Plating, another Plating in hand, and an Inkmoth. So if Patrick's out of gas,
he's
this
kind
could
of turning the corner here.
Turn around. Yeah.
Animating Inkmoth, pumping that Master of Ethereum, making it a little bit bigger. Down comes a Reality Smasher. Wow, Devin. Whoa, this game is turning around.
Is this happening?
I think so.
Chapin's still a mana away from activating his Eye.
That's nuts.
Like,
so he drew another Ravager.
He might be able to like 2-shot him with it if he can get the Inkmoth up, get it equipped with a Plating, and just hit him twice.
Currently, Patrick has no infect damage, but yes, we are facing a situation where Devin could potentially set up a turn where he goes double, well, not double, but attack with Inkmoth twice.
And just try to
win the game. Yeah, look, I think we're exactly about to see that. There you go, Plating. Goes on the Inkmoth. Crunch.
How much is this? 1, 2,
1, 2,
3,
3,
4?
4. Oh, it would be so
Well,
good if he could make it 5.
If he could make it 5, or if he can find mana next turn for the Ravager to sack something, or just to get 2 more artifacts down, like he finds a free one and can cast the Ravager or something.
Right, if he finds a land, for example, like if he finds like a Darksteel Citadel or something like that,
Be
he has
huge.
right, because he gets to play the Ravager, but he also adds to his artifact count, so he doesn't even need like a free creature. He just adds to the artifact count and then gets the Ravager in play.
Now on the other side, Chapin, huge draw step. Like a Sky Spawner would be amazing for him here.
I mean, he needs, and at this point, all the dismembers are really good too, because he doesn't care about life. Not in this situation. He cares about the infect damage.
This is crazy because remember at the beginning of this game when Chapin used Gut Shot, and we were talking about how sometimes the Ink Moth ends up being the problem down the line. That is actually materialized for Chapin here. It was a Drowner?
Oh, wow. That's huge.
That's massive.
Wow, so this Drowner is going to be able to tap down that Ink Moth, and now Devin is still at 1. That was such a big draw.
Wow, Chapin with this sick top deck, and that probably will win him the game.
It looks like he drew a Vault Scourge. Wow.
Gross.
This has been such a swingy game. Yeah, so if you're Devin here, unfortunately, if you're Devin, like Drowner of Hope was exactly what Patrick wanted to draw. It needed to be something like that.
Perfect
Dismember.
draw.
He actually had a lot of draws. He had Dismember, Paths, Sky Spawners, Dismembers. I think I mentioned that already. Yeah, and Drowner of Hope with tapping the Ink Moth.
Totally. Yeah, he certainly had a lot of outs. A Reality Smasher there would have got the job done as well. But he had a lot of not outs. And any lands that wouldn't have done it for him. Thought Not Seer would not have done it for him, probably.
Yeah, and it looks like Devin sees that there's just no way around that. Drowner of Hope, that was incredible.
Patrick Chapin giving us the sweat. I like that.
So Patrick's going to even it out here. Both players sitting at 1-1. They're going to push it to a game 3.
That was fun.
That was a fun game. We're going to move back and take a look at what Ben Friedman and Huang Hao-shan are up to. It looks like they are in the middle of game 3. We have Large Reality Smasher and Sky Spawner versus a Wall of Roots. Not looking so good for Ben Friedman right here.
No, it's not. This is where you're happy that you have the combo available in your deck because, like here you go. Here's a Kitchen Finks, and, maybe there's a world where he takes another hit from this board and then goes for a Collected Company and gets there, or has a combo piece and can court out the other one. Because that does work against the Eldrazi deck. Like if you can say, I'm going to gain 1,000,000 life, they're pretty much done. Like,
so it looks like we tuned in as he was resolving a Collected Company. Yeah.
Oh, this could be good.
Yeah.
I saw an Anafenza in his hand.
All right, we're assembling the team. Is there a Viscera Seer in there?
Negative.
No.
And there is currently no way to dig one up either.
No.
Now, he does have another copy of Kitchen Finks, though, to help bolster his life total and even just give him game on the ground. Like, this looks like it's actually favoring Ben at this point.
Yeah. No, it looked pretty grim as we were coming in, but we didn't realize that there was a Collected Company on the stack.
Yeah, Collected Company into Anafenza, into this. Looks like it's going to work out for him.
Yeah, so 3 mana, Wall of Roots, the birds, and the swamp is good at bolstering his life total and making a lot of blockers on the ground. Now, that Reality Smasher is looking kind of embarrassing.
It'll still smash something. Maybe not as much reality as it's used to.
A little less smashing.
Yeah, when you're smashing Kitchen Finks or whatever, it still works. Ben Friedman just on the verge of comboing here, too.
Yeah.
Viscera Seer, Collected Company, Court of Calling would get him there.
So it looks like Juan has another copy of Iogun in his hand, which is not ideal. Let's see.
It is.
All right, so Sky Spawner gets in for 2.
Far from ideal, indeed.
Yeah, just
it's
a pass. No follow-up right here, and then Ben is in the position where, if he finds Viscera Seer, he can just go off.
Yeah, we should mention, speaking of not ideal, Ben also has a second copy of Anafenza, Kintry Spirit in hand. I think if Hao were to attack, or excuse me, Huang were to attack, Ben would probably block with one Kitchen Finks and one on offensa, go for the trade, get back a Kitchen Finks, gain a couple of life, and then what would end up happening is he'd still have a Kitchen Finks with no counter, and he could then just play on offense and still be in the same position, but Huang would be minus the Reality Smasher.
Our main match is back and ready to rumble, so we're going to look back and see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Patrick Chapin against versus Devin Taets.
Don't want to miss anything here. It goes
Definitely
so
not.
quickly.
These have been great games.
Oh no, Gabby. Mismatched ornithopters.
I know.
You saw it too?
I don't love it.
It's okay, Devin. We still like you.
So a very good start by Devin. Glimmer Void into, I think that's a Darksteel Citadel. Yeah, Springleaf Drum, Ornithopter mismatched, and a Steel Overseer. Steel Overseer on turn... Oh, this is turn 2. Yeah. I was going to say, sometimes you get Steel Overseer out on turn 1, and it's nuts.
I don't know what's going to happen here. Does Chapin have a gut shot? Does he have a path? Put his land into play tapped. I'd assume if he was going to path and had any other play, he would probably just snap it off.
So he doesn't have a gut shot, but I believe I saw a copy of Hercule's Recall. So he can set this game up in a way where he can hopefully gain a lot of tempo against Devin if he does play that in the nick of time.
That's interesting. I actually would just love to watch Chapin craft a game state around setting up the perfect time for Hercules because, like, when you look back at the other side, Devin has a lot of options in that way where he can choose to commit a lot more to the board and go for a quicker kill. He can, figure, well, I can Hercules, but not like put all my eggs in one basket with something like a Ravager. Like, there's a lot of decisions that come into play when you know that your opponent could have a Hercules Recall.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that all Affinity players kind of have to watch out for against any blue deck in the format. Hercules Recall is a beating. You have to make sure you play around it and play in such a way that you can hopefully come back from it pretty quickly.
We might be seeing a fairly early Hercules here. One thing to note here is that Chapin has Stony Silence in his hand.
All right.
Decided not to cast it.
Yeah, so if he didn't do that, almost certainly he's probably planning on Hercules recalling right here.
That's what I would assume, is that whatever Devin ends up playing on the battlefield here, and this is disaster.
Oh, this is a disaster for Devin. He's playing in such a way where he's setting up to have an amazing board.
I love how Chapin played this.
Yeah.
Because when you look at your opponent with Steel Overseer, what are you worried about them doing? You're worried about them dumping their hand and putting counters on everything.
Exactly.
And when you look down at your hand and you see a Hercules, you're like, wait,
all right,
you're incentivized to dump your hand. I will allow it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah. What you really don't want to see is them like, all right, here we go. Here comes Hercules.
Yeah, so Hercules Recall takes care of everything.
Oh, my God.
Even the Glimmer Void, which is such a beating.
Oh, my God. That's brutal.
Oh, man. Wow. And that's something to be afraid of sometimes when you play with Glimmer Void, is stuff like this can happen.
I guess Devin didn't have a choice, but he didn't seem afraid.
Yeah.
That is savage.
I mean, sometimes you
kind
kind
of
have
to discard the hand size too.
Yeah, so Patrick did it at end step, which is really nice because it buys him an entire turn, and it does. He only took 2 damage from that Ornithopter, or like 1 damage rather, from that Ornithopter that was pumped with the Steel Overseer. So he takes 1 point of damage and then gets to. It was.
So it didn't actually do it on actual end step.
Oh, yeah.
I know this is like super nitpicky, but it is something to keep in mind if you're going to play against them.
Yeah.
Which is that Glimmer Void checks on end step. So you have to do it like at the end of their main phase.
All right.
You can say, hey, before you go to your end step, thing.
There you go.
Yeah. And Chapin will know that, being a full-time Magic pro and all that, having played all these years. But
well, things are looking very good for Patrick right here. Yeah, it's a brutal beating.
This is just an outright savage beating. Patrick Chapin is a monster. Darksteel Citadel, Stony Silence.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So there's the mismatch Ornithopter for Devin. But now what do you do if you're Devin? You're so far behind at this point.
Did you just announce it as a mismatch?
Yeah, it was a mismatch Ornithopter.
That's great. That was great. Yeah, we may have to pull Devin aside and have a little chat with him. The white-bordered mismatch Ornithopter's not doing it for me, Devin. But he's got bigger problems than how his cards look. They are currently doing nothing.
All right, so Dismember's going to take care of that Displacer.
That's solid.
There you go. So off it goes.
Okay.
Another Displacer. All right, and a pass back to Devin. Devin finds a signal pest. So the signal pest is actually kind of nice here with these ornithopters. He's going to be able to pump them a little bit. Still pretty slow, though, given what's going on right now.
Chapin seems fine with how things have come about here. He just gets a rumble for 3.
Yeah, for sure. So here comes in Patrick for 3, putting Devin to 13-2.
Oh my God! Did you see Chapin's hand?
I did not. I think there's like 1 smasher.
There's 2.
Oh.
I mean, sorry.
Actually, there's 3.
3 smashers, and I believe the other card's a disenchant.
Wow. So things looking pretty good for Patrick here. If he manages to find another land.
God. You know, this is Chapin's home city.
Oh, is it really?
He's a Detroit native, and you know, he seems right at home here.
Yeah.
I gotta say, home court advantage working very well for him. There's
yeah,
that
so that
disenchant
disenchant
as well.
takes care of the signal pest, and now Devin has no just I mean,
Game. That was
yeah.
the calciform pools. And how do you feel about smashing realities?
I don't mind smashing realities for the next 3 turns approximately.
Tell you what, Chapin doesn't either.
Yeah, and Devin is in such a bad spot now because he can choose to block any of these, but if he blocks, he's just chumping, and then how do you even win this game? You're playing one of those games where you're playing not to die, but you just don't have a way to win.
You know, I'm in the color commentary seat this round, Gabby, and I'm going to tell you, you do not win this game. That's how you win this game. Devin is deader than dead and dead. Yeah.
Yeah, and there it is. That is certainly enough. Devin has no way to victory in this situation, and Patrick is going to take this match 2-1.
That was really tough for Devin.
Yeah.
You know, like, he got top decked. And to be fair, there was a lot of outs. But he did get top decked in that second game, and then that next game was just savage. I mean, that Hercules.
Yes, it was. I mean, it was a beating. I mean, that's where the game really was done for him,
By the way,
truly.
speaking of a beating, Gabby.
Oh,
welcome
wow.
to the play-by-play seat. What the heck is going on here?
Welcome back to Ben Friedman versus Hao-shan. This is, wait, this is the same game that we left? Yeah, this is the same game. Things have developed slightly. There's a lot of permanents on the board. Let's see. It looks like Drowner and Reality Smasher are coming into Rumble, and I think Ben's in the business of chumping. Oh, there's a Sky Spawner over there, too.
Yeah,
and it's a big bird, so it's actually going to be able to trade.
It's a big bird.
Yeah.
So what I think happened here is Huang just played Drowner, that one that's sitting untapped.
Yeah.
He's tapped. He used both of the ability of both of the Scions to tap the 2 Kitchen Finks, and then rumbled with the rest.
Yeah, I think
That's
you're right
what I'm
about
seeing
that.
here.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. An Eldrazi Mimic for free, and a pass back to Ben.
Now we still see that Ben is just. Oh, he just drew Viscerous here.
He just drew Viscerous here.
I was just gonna say he was 1 Viscerous here short, and he found it.
Wow. All right, so here he goes. Combo off.
At
Zach,
1 life.
demonstrate a loop. He was at 1 life. Do it a million times. He's explaining. They're going through the motions.
That's crazy.
Oh. So interesting thing here, he could choose not to scoop. Presumably, I don't know why you would do that. I mean, you could try to deck your opponent. I've heard of people gaining infinite life and then not.
Oh yeah, you shouldn't scoop if you think you have any win condition whatsoever.
Yeah, I guess the question is, does he have any win condition here? Let's take a look.
Oh, let me grab the deck list for you. This is Ben's deck list, so we know that that's not there. So what we can see here is Ben is demonstrating a loop with the combo. One thing to consider here as well, Gabby, are the scry triggers that happen. So the Viscerous here nets him a scry trigger per activation. So what'll end up happening is he'll gain 2 life and he'll scry 1. And that'll happen every single time he does this. And then the idea here is that he's going to scry through his entire deck until he finds, which I'm going to double check because some decks do vary here. But no, he does have the 1 copy of Murderous Redcap. He will leave that on top.
Yeah.
And remember, scry is top or bottom. So he can just say, I'll scry another billion times, but I'll just leave the red cap on top. He passes the turn back to Huang. Huang says, do something, go. And then he says, play Murderous Redcap, then repeat that same process, except for instead of gaining 2 life, I'm going to do 2 damage to you, and then he kills him.
Yeah, no, he actually has a multitude of ways to win from here. There's also 2 copies of Melira, Silvoc Outcast, so if he actually has that out in play, if he was to cut to the point of the deck where Melira's out, he could actually make his creatures infinitely big with the bolster triggers. So between like Anafenza and Melira, coming out. So he could also try to win that route.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
This is just, it's just game. It should be GG here. But the thing is that Ben, is making sure with our table judge there that he can demonstrate the loop that he wants. Because look, if you just start riffling through your library or start scrying away, that's one of the ways you can actually lose a game that you have locked up.
Well, it's something you can do in person when you play Paper Magic, playing Melira Company, that you can't do online, at least not the specific shortcut, which is you legitimately just cut to a point of your deck. You say, it's 15 triggers until I get to this point. I'm just going to cycle through my deck how many times?
Yeah,
if right here.
I mean, he also could just do this one at a time, but...
Right, so I think this is where they're having the discussion.
This is just... It may be faster for him to just do this one at a time with the scries and just verbalize the rest. Because what you can do is you can say, I'm going to demonstrate a loop, I'll do it, I'll do it, and then you say, I'm going to do it a billion times more, and then go. But
I mean, it's also good to teach this kind of thing because, yes, he could go through the motions and go through every single scry, but, playing decks like this, and especially in Modern, sometimes you can have very long, grindy games. And so the more people know that this is something that you can do with this deck, the more it just will save time for everybody in general. So
where's his red cap? Oh, I think he just passed it down there.
It's possible he gets Melira here. He can do either one. Either one wins in the game.
But he can't draw it, right?
No, he can
So
not.
Usually what they do is they set up for the next turn.
Yeah.
So they'll put whatever the win is next, in which the most direct way is usually red cap, and then that'll be that.
Yeah. Well, he's at infinite life at this point, or he will be at infinite life at this point. So, the only way that you really lose in this spot against Eldrazi will be something like Ulamog.
I mean, how does that kill him still? He just gets decked? Sure.
Oh, you get decked, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that is one way he could lose. But if he sets up the win next turn with the...
Yeah.
What's it called?
Given that there's no Ulamog in play right now, this game is just... The doors are shut for Huang.
Yeah, I know. You're just speaking in terms of generalities here. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, look, when we go this long, then we have to come up with stuff to talk about until the game actually ends, I guess. You're right, though. A couple of attacks with Ulamog is one way that you could lose. It really is.
Yes.
No,
I say that because I literally heard it from someone. I'm like, well, it seems great that you can just kind of like win infinite life at a moment's notice when you're playing Melira Company. And someone's like, well, you know what? You don't always win in that spot. In fact, I lost this way, and I've lost in the same way before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Huang is probably just going to pass the turn back right now. He can't really do anything. He has 99 plus life.
Yeah, and that's the low end right there.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking significantly more than 99 life here. Okay, so I'm assuming
he got a Court of Calling.
He's going to do it again. Maybe he boarded red cap out. What is he doing here? Let's find out. Oh. All right.
Huh?
Huang is like,
pass back to Huang.
Sure, I guess
yeah,
I'll
Huang is like, I guess
card.
I'll take another turn.
Why not?
I ain't complaining. Yeah, so Huang, not much he can do at this point.
No, in fact, I think there's absolutely nothing.
No.
He has one Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, out of his sideboard. I would not assume that you'd bring it in this matchup.
No, I really don't think so. You're bringing it in against decks that you think are going to be bringing in Worship against you. Like, that's an actual answer you can have other than Disenchant. Ben's going to take a draw.
He drew Collected Company. He's going for value here? So he must have taken the red cap out, but like you said earlier, he has other options here, too.
There's a chance. Well, you know what I told you earlier is true, too. If he gets Melira, he can make his creatures infinitely big. So maybe he boarded out both Melira and the red caps. Otherwise, he could just cut it. Like, he would have won a turn ago.
Totally.
Okay, so Collected Company.
I mean, if he does not have access to either of those cards, then he does just need to do the deed here of grinding out cards and a board presence that he can eventually turn sideways and kill.
I mean, presumably he's at infinite life, so
yeah.
At that point you're not worried about whatever it is, happening on Huang's side of the board, but you do need a deal 9 points of damage. So the birds is currently pinging for 1 a turn.
Yep. You know, and then the other way that he can do this too is Gavany Township can add counters pretty quickly to like just a couple of birds, a couple of flyers. I mean, Huang's at 9. He doesn't need to do that much work here.
I mean, he's in a position where he can cut to the point of his deck where Gavany Township is, so he doesn't even need, you know what I mean? It's not even a matter of waiting. He could just cut to it.
Yeah, I'm surprised. He must have boarded them. It's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Oh, why he wouldn't just like kill him?
Yeah, he just would have.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think they're not in the deck, and even when he was slumming through this deck before, we didn't really see the red cap anywhere.
I definitely didn't see it for sure. So, okay. I mean, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
But Ben has the luxury of
Ben has
not being able to die.
Ben has plenty of time here.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, looking at the list here, I'll just go over it real quick because there's a lot of 4s here from Huang. He's got Path, Cyclonic Rift, Dismember, none of those matter.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Eldrazi Mimic, Displacer, and Sky Spawner, none of those matter. He's got 1 Matter Reshaper, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a Thought Knot, 4 Thought Knot, 4 Reality Smasher, 4 Drowners, and 4 Endless Ones. None of those matter. So, again, you know, looking at his sideboard, there's 1 Ulamog, but we don't assume that he's bringing it in for the matchup, and it's kind of, that's all she wrote. I
mean, it's tough in this situation because Huang, even though he's not dead and Ben hasn't demonstrated a way to be able to kill him, he also has no way to win. So I'm not sure. I mean, maybe that Ulamog is in there. Maybe that's the reason that Huang is still playing.
That could be.
That's entirely possible. All right, so.
Hey, I mean, look, I don't blame Huang at all. Like,
yeah.
Fight it. Like, look, if your opponent hasn't shown you that they can defeat you, like, play it.
He couldn't.
There's no
He hasn't killed him yet.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He hasn't shown him. So it's like, hey, we'll sit here for a while. Stubborn denial? Sure.
So stubborn denial
They're
for
in
Huang.
turns.
They are?
That's what that die down there
Oh, there you go.
means.
You're right.
Wow. So now we know why.
Now we know why.
Yeah.
That's very clear.
Yeah, he's got to get the job done. And look, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, Huang has he's been playing fine. He's been playing quickly. He's moving things along. And he has no incentive to do anything other than say, kill me.
I will say I'm truly surprised that the full combo isn't in there.
Like either of them?
I mean, I think maybe.
It's weird.
Yeah, because Ben can just assume, okay, well, if I gain infinite life, my opponent's going to scoop to me. But you need to be able to demonstrate that you can kill them too. And in this case, he's not able to. And now they're in turns.
I'm with you, dude. I am very surprised. Especially because we know how fast this blue-white Eldrazi deck can be given the right draw.
Yeah.
And your combo, they don't disrupt you that much.
Right.
So your combo becomes a really reliable default, or at least a plan A for you. Here's Thought Knot to take away the cord, though. He's going to cast it in response.
Yeah, he's just probably going to cast it here in response.
Yeah.
Infinite life doesn't really care about not having any blockers.
I think he's only got it for 1 here, though, right?
Oh, Viscera Seer.
Yeah, he knew what it was. He had set that up again, but the Viscera Seer, by the way, got dismembered.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Anafenza goes away to that Thought Knot Seer. Doesn't really need a second copy of it, already one in the battlefield.
Is this going to go to a draw?
I think so. It looked like it was unwinnable for him.
I mean, Ben can still stack his deck.
I mean, this is one of those situations where, like, you do the theoretical, like, if you could stack your deck, what do you do? But, like, look, it's not in there. I don't see it.
I haven't yet.
Wow.
So what's his quickest avenue to victory? He is not getting through on the ground in a time frame that's going to allow him to win this match. That is not happening.
Mm-hmm. I don't see it. I don't see Malera's in there, and
no.
I don't see red caps.
Killing him in the air is real, though, because Huang, he took 4 damage to cast that Dismember.
You don't have enough power, though.
Well,
How are you going to do that?
Well, so the way that he does it is he gets another bird and a Gavany Township. This is turn 2 now.
You put a Collected Company on top.
Yes, that's what you should do. I guess he's just hoping to hit Birds of Paradise here.
Oh,
There's a Malera down there. Huh.
So he can actually hold on. I think he's deciding what he wants to maybe put on top of his deck, responding to the Collected Company. He can actually do that.
Kind of. He can take 1 card.
Yes.
He can't stack 2 creatures on
Right.
top of his deck, but he can put 1.
But he
Looks
can
like
decide what
Malira.
he wants. Yeah. He can decide at least the top one.
Yeah. And he did take Malira. All right, are we going to see him go for this now? And there's a
Eternal Witness
Eternal
too.
Witness also.
Yeah, so Eternal Witness and Malira.
You know, we didn't get to watch this whole game. There is also the chance that his Murderous Redcap got exiled early to like a Thought Knot or something.
That's possible,
you know,
for
that,
sure.
that could have happened.
How many copies does he play?
1.
All right,
So
so yeah,
maybe he just happened to
that
have it in
possibly
his
could have.
opener.
Yeah,
Yeah.
entirely possible. So yeah, Malira and Eternal Witness get in the. There you go. So now he's going to demonstrate the loop, sack it infinite times. That bird is going to be infinitely big. Repeat a million times. And that's match. Wow, Ben Friedman versus Huang. It looked like he was going to definitely win, maybe not win, definitely win again. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. Very, very, very well well played. And that is going to do it for round 5 here from GP Detroit.
Outfit your Magic collection with the newest Oath of the Gatewatch accessories from Ultra Pro. You can see the full array of card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios of your favorite Magic artwork at ultrapro.com. Friday Night Magic has expanded to include all formats. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts. Check out your local store for details and share your FNM stories by using the hashtag MTGFNM. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
Over Innistrad, we know you're excited, so we have something for you from Shadows over Innistrad. World this weekend. We're gonna go take a look at what's going on in Stitcher's Lab.